Wish you could walk out on your fantasy team? FanDuel packs the thrill of a whole season into just 1 week. Play in 1 week fantasy football leagues for real money with immediate cash payouts. The money is real, and with no season-long commitment, you only play when you want. FanDuel.com, where every week is a new season.
Episode 1 of the MDDF, that's Mains and Duds Discuss Footy. I'm one of your hosts, Mainsy, and this is the other host, Mr. Neil Dutton. Hello, Neil.
Hello, Paul.
You okay?
I'm not too bad. Fighting a little bit of a cold, but I've beaten off bigger foes than this.
So, for regular listeners to me and you, we do a podcast. But this is the UK End Zone version of our podcast, so people may not know who we are. So I think we should give them a bit of resume of who we are. So Dutton, do you want to tell people who Neil Dutton is in a 30-second soundbite?
Neil Dutton is a frustrated sports fan who has his hopes constantly dashed by Philadelphia Eagles, Sheffield Wednesday, and Yorkshire County Cricket Club. I'm one of the fantasy writers for UK End Zone, and I appear regularly on the UK End Zone football programme to give my thoughts on the upcoming fixtures.
And I'm Paul Mainwaring Mainsy. I am a not-so-frustrated Liverpool, Washington Redskins, and I suppose LA Dodgers fan would be the next one on the list. I also write for UK End Zone. I do the Mainsy Makes You Money article, and I am a weekly guest on the First Take UK podcast with Ollie and Stephen. So that's enough about us, and we'll probably get onto us a lot more later because we like talking about ourselves. Well, Neil does anyway. What we're going to do each week is we're going to go through a few games. I'm going to look at it from a betting angle, and Neil's going to look at it from a fantasy angle. So it's basically our musings that we put down on uknzo.com, which you've obviously read, in podcast form. So let's get things going. First of all, we're going to talk about our two teams, funnily enough. The Washington Redskins against the Philadelphia Eagles.
Couldn't have written it up any better.
Exactly. It's almost like we planned it. I suppose there's two questions on this for me. What's the standard forfeit bet, and what's the fantasy implications of this game?
Well, the standard forfeit bet, I have found a lovely picture of Nigel Pearson lifting the Rumbelows Cup in 1991 that will be your Twitter profile picture for a week. Should the Eagles win.
Okay, so I've got to find an equally ridiculous picture for you to have.
That would be nice.
And that will happen. As people who know me, that is the usual standard format of a bet related to fantasy / NFL. You lose, you get a ridiculous picture. See Tony Esposito with his Martin Johnson lifting the World Cup.
But it takes my eye looking at that, it really did.
It's amazing, isn't it? If you're going to lose, you're going to do it properly. A Welsh rugby union fan with a Martin Johnson avatar is amazing. Anyway, less of that. Let's get into Washington and Philadelphia, Dutton.
Well, this is the second time these two teams have met this year. The first time was on opening day. It was, the dawn of a brave new era of the Chip Kelly offence. Fantasy-wise, that day, it was quite a high-scoring game. I think it was 33-27. The main fantasy stars on the day, despite not playing well, Robert Griffin III scored 21.37 points. Freddie Morris was 9.4. And for the Eagles, LaShawn McCoy had 24.90 and Deshaun Jackson had 16.4. Fantasy-wise, this is one of those matchups that if you have the high-profile skill players, you should probably play them. I know Nick Foles has been picked up on the waiver wire a heck of a lot the last 2 weeks, which Kel Surprise, he threw 7 touchdowns in a game. Who wouldn't want to pick him up, especially if you've been burnt by your quarterback in the last few weeks, like Tony Romo, for example. Little things to be considered as we go in. Nick Foles, as I mentioned him there, he has the third most fantasy points of anyone of any position over the last 4 weeks. He has 81.38 points. So, There's only 2 players who've scored more than him. One of them we'll come to later. Freddie Morris for Washington has 57 points over the same period. That's the 8th most running backs. And the second highest scoring tight end in the league is the start of the season, the lesser known Jordan Reed for the Washington Football Club. Now, obviously, I'd say it's one of those games. If you've got Robert Griffin III, if you have Deshaun Jackson, you've got Shady McCoy, you've got Freddie Morris, start them. You start your studs. This is one of those games. The only primer that I would say against someone like Jordan Reed would be that the Philadelphia Eagles have given up the 24th fewest fantasy points to tight ends over the last month. That's an average of 5.43 a game.
Just in case you weren't sure of what this was going to be, that is Dutton in his element, chatting a load of numbers at you, so Dutton, you understand what's going on.
Dutton loves his numbers.
I'm going to break it down in Dutton's world pretty simply. Defences need not apply. Robert Griffin III, Alfred Morris, Pierre Garçon, Deshaun Jackson, LaShawn McCoy, Nick Foles. If you've got him, start him. There's going to be a lot of points. I just suggest there's going to be a lot of big plays, especially from the Eagles. This is something you need to keep an eye on.
The Eagles lead the league in explosive plays. That's plays over 20 yards with 61, which is 16 more than the second best team.
And let's not beat around the bush. They're playing quite possibly one of the worst defences in the history of Christendom. So there's a high possibility that there's going to be a lot more big plays.
Of these 2 teams, one of them is giving up 417 yards per game. The other is giving up 388.6. Yeah. And I'll shock you, the Eagles are giving up the 417.
Defences need not apply. From a betting angle, Dutton, the Eagles are 3.5 in a standard Vegas world. That means when you're at home, you get 3. So Vegas fancies the Eagles more than the standard 3. Not by much, but enough. I'd take the Eagles. Skins I've stayed clear of all year. If anyone's read, Mains Makes You Money, and I have been making people money. So there's a logic to this. Washington are not a good team to bet with this year. They haven't played well for a multitude of different reasons. They found ways to lose games. I expect this to be another one. What I would say, however, is the game point is 52.5. Take the over. It's 4-7. First score is a touchdown. Take it. There's going to be touchdowns in this game, as proven by the fact there's a bet over 5 touchdowns. Definitely take it. And also, as Dutton said, the Eagles are the big play team in the NFL this year, along with the Denver Broncos, I guess, we will come on to later, as Neil said. You can get 4-5 on the Eagles having the longest touchdown in the game. I think it's a no-brainer. The Skins will get burnt on some kind of 50, 60-yard play. So enjoy that money while you take it.
Little stat attack, of course, is that I think it's been quite commonly used this last week. The Philadelphia Eagles are the first team in NFL history to be 5-5 at this stage of the season with no home wins.
That is something that we should mention, that the last time the Philadelphia Eagles won a game at Lincoln Financial Field, it was September of 2012. I expect that duck to be broken this week.
Well, this is the anniversary of Nick Foles' first career start. And can you tell me who his first career start was against?
I can't nearly block out all Eagles games.
It was the Washington Redskins.
Oh, we won that game?
Yep.
Go us. That was when we went from 3-6 to 10-6. Did you know we're 3-6 now? Did you know we're not going to be 10-6 right now?
Yeah, good luck with that.
Yeah, it's not happening. So I think what we're saying here is, if you've got Washington and Philadelphia players in your fantasy team, play them. Take the Eagles, take the over, take a lot of touchdowns.
I'll go with that.
Okay. Next game we're going to look at is Monday Night Football, and it's actually a good Monday Night Football. It's Patriots or Panthers. It's two of the best teams in the league, Neil.
I think it's fair to say, on current form over the last, is it 5 on the spin that the Panthers have reeled off?
Yes.
Including last week was... See, I think, sometimes you forget that football's supposed to be ground and pound. It's supposed to be people, it's supposed to be a scrap. And I like 10-9 wins. Because last week, the Panthers at San Francisco, it was a good game. Because it wasn't just two teams. Two good quarterbacks. You can say they can both sling the ball, but there was nothing open for them, so they had to put it, play defense, field position. It was a good game.
Yeah, no, I think sometimes everyone's just seen a load of 42-35 games, and that's what they want to see. But that game was as it's been called, put your big boy pants on, hit each other, and see who backs down, and the 49ers buckled a little bit. Nothing too drastic, but enough for the Carolina Panthers to be able to make a fist of it. And obviously this last week, the Patriots had a bye week after absolutely spanking the Pittsburgh Steelers. So I suppose the question is, Neil, who are you starting?
Well, the obvious one, everyone knows how well the Panthers' defence has been. Over the last 4 weeks, they have scored 59 points. On defence, that's tied for the most in the NFL. However, they are giving up the third most points to tight ends over that period. Now, I don't know if anyone's heard of this guy. He plays for the Patriots. His name's Rob Gronkowski, and I think Brady quite likes throwing him the ball.
I hear he's good. Yeah, he's good.
Well, he has over the last 4 weeks. He has the fourth most points amongst tight ends in the league at 34.4. So, that's certainly one. If you have, it's one of those, if you have Gronk, you're going to be starting him anyway. He's not a matchup-based guy. The Patriots give up quite a lot of points to running backs, and there is quite a running threat for Carolina. They have D'Angelo Williams. They have Jonathan Stewart, who's come back from injury. They also have Mike Tolbert, who gets a lot of goal line carries and was breaking off a few nice runs for a big man last week that I saw. When it comes to the head-to-head of the quarterbacks, the Patriots give up the 11th most points. This is over the last 4 weeks. Just to give some context, I'm not going back to things because a lot of fantasy numbers this year have been tilted by one freak game. You still see the Baltimore Ravens defense, or they give up so many points to quarterbacks and wide receivers. Yeah, that was because of one game where they got torched for 7. That's really tilted everything. So I like to go a bit of context, a bit of form, and look back over the last month. And the Patriots are giving up the 11th most points to quarterbacks, an average of 18.46. And the Panthers have given up the 5th least most to quarterbacks, 11.4. Now you look, aside from the Pittsburgh Steelers game, Tom Brady has had a very, very ordinary fantasy season. Once before last week, their last game, he was averaging 8 points in his previous 4 games.
I was going to say, isn't average an understatement?
He's off target. He's missing throws. His receivers do lead the lead in drops. So if you're in a league where you get extra points for drops, you start Tom Brady every week. But Cam Newton, over the last 4 weeks, has scored 91.44 fantasy points. That is the most amongst quarterbacks in the league.
And that is why Mainty's Marvels are 3-1 in that period. Yep,
your annual getting fans' hopes up for the run-in and then disappointing them again.
5-5, Dutton. 5-5. Got Chalmers sights this week.
Sure, he's quaking.
I'm only 1 game behind you, so I wouldn't, fancy Guru wouldn't be start throwing the abuse out.
Yeah. The one person I would say, and this is someone who's been, when he's been on form, you try and get him in as either your running back 2 or certainly in your flex, and that's Stephen Ridley. I would steer clear of him this week if you can. There's not a lot of teams on the bye, so you're not going to be hampered that way. The Panthers are only giving up 11.73 to running backs over the last month, and that is the 3rd least in the league. So I'd steer clear of Stephen Ridley.
So Dalton, I haven't got Ridley, but I've got D'Angelo Williams. He's on the bench as we speak. I didn't pick him against San Francisco. He'd scored a touchdown. It luckily didn't affect my victory over Esposti. The question is, should D'Angelo be playing?
D'Angelo Williams is one of those players. He'll get, he doesn't get into the end zone an awful lot. This is what hurts his fantasy production. He's quite a productive back. He is the Carolina Panthers' all-time leader in yards, rushing yards. But the Patriots are giving up 21.65 points to running backs. Is he a running back one? Do you pin your hopes on him? No, but if you have a stud in that first running back position and you just need someone to back him up, he's certainly a running back two. Or, like in one league I play in, we have 3 flex positions. And now that's not just a running back wide receiver, that's a running back wide receiver tight end.
Okay.
So if you can get him in, because the Patriots against the run, they've lost the likes of Jared Mayo, they've lost Vince Wilfork. You can run on the Patriots, and Williams at home, he's not a bad start.
Okay, so we're saying we'd start Cam. You seem to be leaning towards a Panthers victory on this, and I don't want to lead you down an alley here, and that you'd probably start more of the Panthers than you would the Patriots.
I would start of the Patriots. The do not miss start would be Rob Gronkowski. But if you have other quarterbacks, I would steer clear. I would temper your expectations of Tom Brady in this game. If you've been leaning towards not playing him in other games, don't fight the edge this week.
Okay. So at the moment, Panthers are 1.5 point favourites over the Pats. That makes me uncomfortable. I know the Panthers are good. I've seen that defensive line. It's immense. Brady hasn't played that well, or not as well as he has done in the past. But they've had a week 10 days to prepare. And I know the Panthers might be a top 5 team in the NFL, but I fear there might be a letdown. I fear it could be after the Lord Mayor's show with the 49ers. You get another big team back to back. It's not easy, and this is a new team. This is a new feeling for them. I think the Pats might sneak this victory on Monday night. What I would say...
Go
on, mate.
I would not be at all surprised. We know when the Patriots are up, they're up. If they can get on a little roll, they're in a division that they should win. We know this. The Dolphins have shot themselves in the foot in a huge way on and off the field. The Jets are a bit of a roller coaster. The Bills, I think, have plateaued now. I think they put up a good fight, but they're going to fall away slightly. So it's their division to win. But what they need to do is get on a bit of a run, go into the playoffs with some momentum. And this would be a huge win because, as I say, everyone still puts San Francisco in the pantheon in the NFC. So the Panthers, I keep doing that. The Panthers have gone in and they've done the job in San Francisco. Now they've got to go to the admittedly slightly weaker conference, the AFC. A statement win. If they can, on Monday night prime time, if they can knock off Tom Brady, then you've got to sit there and take the Carolina team seriously.
What I'd say on other bets related to the game: Pats to score first, 21-10. That's a high number, like 2-1. Nearly 2-1, over 2-1. Sorry, that's a good bet for me. That's any score. They win the toss, take it 40 yards, and kick a field goal. Just doubling my money. I think it won't be that high scoring. So under 4.5 touchdowns, 9-5. A couple of random ones for you here. The game total score being even points, as in the 2 points scored by both teams added together, 23-20. Don't know why I like it, but odds is less than evens, so why not take the higher odds? And 5-1, the third quarter has the highest amount of points. Couple of changes at half time. If, say, the Panthers are winning, Patriots come out, score 14-17 in the third quarter. No points scored in the fourth. I think it's a good chance.
Of course, these two teams did historically go bananas in the second half of a Super Bowl once, having gone 27 minutes with neither team scoring.
Did they go as bananas as Ian Mullen's mum when she came downstairs after we cheered for the last Panthers touchdown?
I doubt it. I don't think anyone went that bananas.
Yeah, if you want to find out about that, tweet us later. Final game, Dutton. Chiefs at Broncos. Does it get any bigger?
For all the marbles. Well, this is on paper, and from what their team's reputations are, this is the immovable force against the irresistible object of the week. You have a juggernaut offence that's on pace to shatter all offensive records, touchdowns thrown, yards, completions, against a team that just has kept every team to below 17 points this year. In the old days, you could take the defence, as you forever telling me. Nowadays, probably not. From a fantasy point of view, there's a few things that, from a fantasy point of view, and this is always the thing we have to stress, there is a fundamental difference between fantasy football and real football. Garbage time, it doesn't look good because you still lose, but garbage time points still count. And the Chiefs D, in the last 4 weeks, has scored 59 points. That's tied with the Carolina Panthers. The Denver Broncos defence in the same period has scored 30 points, which is good for 10th. Now, we all know how bad the Denver defence is, don't we? They give it up because they're going to ahead, so all the teams are just going to throw on them all the time. The Denver Broncos are only giving up less than 14 fantasy points to quarterbacks, which is 24th least over the last month. Whereas the Chiefs defence is giving up 22.3 points to wide receivers. The Broncos are giving up 19.83. The most interesting stat that I found looking into this game is, over the last month, Peyton Manning has 60.30 fantasy points. Among quarterbacks, that's good for the 14th most. Obviously, he's had a bye, but Alex Smith has thrown for 50.68 fantasy points, which is 17th. So he's only 10 points fewer than Peyton Manning, and he's had a bye as well. Jamal Charles has scored 62.7 points in the last month. That's the 5th best amongst running backs. The Broncos give up 16.73 to running backs. And say if you have either of these teams' defences, something to consider. Alex Smith has thrown 1 interception in his last 4 games. Peyton Manning has thrown 5. But Alex Smith has thrown 2 touchdowns. Peyton Manning has thrown 9.
I mean, I understand that the numbers are pretty staggering. Well, not as staggering as you would expect. What I would say is, who the hell is Alex Smith throwing to in that team? So surely the Broncos defence is a good defence to have, because Alex Smith's basically throwing to me and you, as Dwayne Bowe decided that he'd like to drive too fast on a road while smoking.
Over the last 4 weeks, their leading wide receiver in terms of fantasy points for Kansas City has been Dexter McCluster, and he has 22.50. Demaryius Thomas has 35.5 in the same period. And you consider how much, it's an equal opportunity offense in Denver. He's got a lot of mouths to feed. He's got D. Thomas, he's got J. Thomas, he's got Welk, he's got Eric Decker. Pretty much, if Alex Smith doesn't go deep, he has a reliable receiver, and it's Dexter McClusker, who basically makes plays out in the backfield.
I mean, at the end of the day, if you've got Eric Decker, you're gutted because he's only got 7 touchdowns this year, while the other 3 have got 9 each. Mm-hmm. It's frightening, gaudy numbers. Surely the question on this game is, what game is it going to be? If it's going to be high scoring, if you think the Broncos are going to score, then you pick all them players. If you don't, you pick the Chiefs D.
I think the only skill player from the Kansas City point of view that you go with any degree of confidence is Jamal Charles. That's because he probably, in your league, he probably went in the top 5. He may have gone even higher. Some people might have played, a hunch. Because running back has been a position of extraordinary disappointment this year. When you look at how many running backs have been first rounders, Arian Foster probably was, whoever had the first pick was probably killing himself with those last few seconds. Do I go Foster? Do I go Peterson? Ray Rice has fallen off the face of the earth. Doug Martin is now on IR. CJ Spiller, most of his fantasy production has come in 2 runs this season. The only people, you've had so little value at running back, and it backs up. We said this at the start of the season. The first 2 rounds, you've got to load up on your running backs. So all these people who went out and thought they were clever, taking Aaron Rodgers, Drew Brees, Tom Brady in a couple of leagues I play in the first round, congratulations. MJD and Rashard Jennings are not winning you your league. I've checked. But Jamal Charles has been a stud. He's an MVP candidate in reality and fantasy. But he is the only skill player on the Chiefs you would even contemplate starting. And you start him every week. There's no great insight there. On the Broncos side of the ball, if you have Welker, you have D. Thomas, you have Julius Thomas, you have Peyton Manning, you start there. The only one who, it's as you say, the odd one out would be, if you have any doubt, would be Eric Decker.
Yeah, because he's only got 7 touchdowns. I mean, I've got Welker, and he didn't do anything last week, but that expects me that he will do something this week. I think the centre of the field might be a little bit more open, although it's going to be I think it's going to be an absolute war. If we look at the game itself, at the moment, it's in Denver. Broncos are favoured by 8. Now, whether you think the Chiefs are good or not, that's a big number in a divisional rival game when one of the teams is 9-0. I know the other team's 8-1. I have to say, for me, I looked at it and I was like, yeah, that's a lot of points. At the moment, correct me if I'm wrong, I think Peyton Manning's got 2 broken legs. And I think the Chiefs can rush the passer.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Don't get me wrong, I think the Broncos are going to win the game, but I don't think they're going to win it by much. I'd take the Chiefs, and it's actually a cert on the website. What I would say is, in the other bets, I've got Chiefs first goal, Chiefs field goal first score, 7-2. I think Chiefs are going to score field goals rather than touchdowns. And if their field goal first score 7-2, it's a great shout. Longest touchdown over 45 yards. As we said, the Broncos have big plays all over the field. It's usually throw it 2 yards and the wide receiver runs for 80, as proven last week against San Diego. But it does happen. 10-13. Done. A defensive touchdown is 6-5. There's a lot of playmakers on defense, especially on the Kansas City side. I think a defensive touchdown is almost nailed on.
It could very well be. I mean, you say this thing about you think Kansas might have to settle for a lot of field goals. Ryan Suckup is available in an awful lot of leagues, and he's a very reliable kicker. Mm. He's probably the most successful Mr. Irrelevant of all time.
Yeah.
I have him in a couple of leagues. They score a lot of field goals because it's not an Andy Reid offense. Let's put it that way. So they have to rely on field goal. Suckup is as close to money as you can get. He hasn't a lot of pressure kicks to make this year, but if you're struggling for a kicker, if you've got Hauschka, you've not got Hauschka, you've not got Janikowski, and you've got Randy Bullock, you might want to get rid of him and try and see if you can get Ryan Suckup. The
last one I've got on the bet button is what I like to call an Andy Reid special. Chiefs call the first time out 5-6. You're in Denver. You got Alex Smith behind the thing. It's loud. You're not sure what play to call. Your clock management is abysmal. You call the first time out.
Is there a bet on Andy Reid to lose a challenge?
Well, it's the only bet I could see was team to call first challenge. It didn't say whether they would win or lose. But if there was, try and find it. Andy Reid will lose a challenge.
He certainly will. He had a knack. I genuinely think sometimes he did it in Philadelphia just for a laugh.
Well, he was probably the only one who was laughing. Because I don't think many people in Philadelphia were.
They never do.
No, they don't, Neil. So, Neil, that's it for episode 1 of the MDDF. We've talked about Washington against Philadelphia. We've talked about the Patriots against the Panthers. And we've talked about the Chiefs against the Broncos. What I would suggest is get onto your fantasy site and change your team accordingly, and get onto your local bookmaker / go onto your mobile phone or your computer and put those bets on and see if we can make you some money.
We don't want you. We don't want your adulation. We just want your money.
Yeah. So what I'd like to say is, hope you enjoyed it, and thanks for downloading.